So Luna Striker, thank you so much for the follow. And from Castle Rexworth and the Rexworth Estates, I bid you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you are. My name is Rexworth, Lord Rexworth. I'm joined once again this week by Zoe the Demon Fox, and we're going to be continuing our reading of The Realm, A Tale of Blood and Souls, which Zoe has written, and written quite well, I might add. So well that, Zoe, I understand you've started work on another book.
Yes, I'm working on A Tale of Mercenaries, Black Hole Conspiracy.
Nice. Love it. That one has, without revealing any details, chat, because we want to keep all this secret. If you like the fantasy vibe that we've been getting from The Realm, this other one that Zoe's working on has got a bit of a cyberpunk and space travel vibe to it. So if you're fond of cyberpunk, Blade Runner, even old shows like Robotech and Macross, maybe even Akira, then you'll like this. She's cooking up something good. You're gonna love it. Yeah, there's the handsome Lord. Hello, Jen. Hello, darling. Good to see you. And Ruby, thank you for the hydrate earlier. I am not only do I have 2 bottles of Topo Chico with lime tonight, but also got a very big mug of throat coat tea, which, considering everything that we get through with reading ASMR each week, I I kind of need it, and it's also making me glad I'm only doing maybe a stream every other day this week, rather than having to go back to back some nights. I don't think my poor voice could handle that. Is Ruby still in chat? Surprised she hasn't gone crazy yet. Well, I think if she sees your tweet from earlier today, Jen, she's likely to go completely mad. She'll go absolutely potty, even. Yes, those of you who don't know, Genevieve posted that I guess, Jen, you got one of those random drawing things asking you who your Valentine's going to be for this year, and well, chat. Guess who the lucky lad was that whose short straw got drawn there? It was me. It was me. So yeah, the internet has decided, and according to the judgment of the Auditrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal, I am to be Genevieve Yosso's Valentine this year. Which, hey, that's fine. That's fine. So yeah, Jen, chocolates, flowers. Do the full Monty on that. So yeah, expect something something around Valentine's. Yes, plenty of chocolates and some red roses, or maybe a bouquet, a variety bouquet or something like that. So yeah, and who knows? Maybe I'll even come bearing a bottle of Prosecco with me or something. I know it's your favorite. Anyway, let's see. Real quick. Zoe, do you have anything you want to plug?
Just my card, which has like 8 different links on it.
Right. Oh, and by the way, chat, Zoe's Twitch page is tagged on my stream title. So do click on her screen name. Give her a follow if you haven't already, and follow her across all platforms: Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, everything. So yeah. Oh my god, yes, date me now. Well, I did ultimately win that boyfriend application contest. So yeah, coming soon. Or am I joking? Oh, are you? I don't know. Are you joking or aren't you? Anyways, And as for me, all links available at my website, lordrexworth.com. Lordrexworth.com is the website. Twitter is at lordrexworth. Got the Throne page if you're feeling generous, throne.com/Lord Rexworth. Also, do join the Castle Rexworth Discord if you're over the age of 18. And, finally, I want to push this a little bit more aggressively now. If you ever happen to miss a stream, especially if you'd like to get caught up on the reading ASMR sessions, all of them are available on my YouTube page. Just search at Lord Rexworth VT or click that link there in chat and subscribe to my YouTube page and tap the notification bell so that you'll know when I post content. So, with all of this out of the way, let us begin tonight's reading of The Realm, A Tale of Blood and Souls. And we begin with Chapter 30, Callista, Saint of Decay. Another day, another meeting with Petra. For one, Calico was let straight into the throne room instead of being forced to wait. She marched up to the high throne, noting that, other than her and Petra, the throne room of Hexad was completely empty, not even any guards. She started to kneel. "I've no time for pleasantries, Fallen. Stand." Calico quickly stood back up. Petra's head was lazily propped on his arm, and he sat up only slightly. He seemed bored. "I've been hearing interesting rumors, Fallen. The listener has decided to cease his listening. Blackrock's vault has been burglarized, and most interesting of all, I hear tell of a being with a power to claim souls. What do you make of this?" Calico quickly put her thoughts together, starting with the easiest to give herself time to think.
As far as I'm aware, the only thing stolen from Blackrock was my old crown. We both know it has no power, so...
Petra sat up fully, holding up a hand to silence the Fallen. "Nay, I've heard the Queen of Hell has been regularly stealing from there." "Interesting, isn't it?" Petra chuckled and Calico's eyes widened.
If I may ask, how many artifacts have been stolen, if you know, Your Highness?
Petra spun his hand round idly. "Oh, somewhere in the double digits as far as I've heard." Petra's fist clenched. Asbestos was a fool to allow the Queen to regain her memories. Oh well. "What do you know of Cagliostro?"
Not much. His motivations are unknown to us all. A little spider told me his codices are still missing. Perhaps he's become active to locate them?
Petra rubbed his chin. Perhaps. He gripped the high throne's armrest idly. "Tell me, Calico, this rumor of a new queen, is there any validity to it?" Calico hesitated for a moment. What should she say? Your silence is telling enough, Fallen. While the rumors of their powers are troublesome, perhaps for the time being, this is a good thing. I'm sure once they step into the light, they will face the Fox for dominion of the Obsidian Throne. If they kill each other, the problem will solve itself. I have a task for you, Calico. Locate this fledgling queen and offer your assistance. The faster we bring this new one forward, the faster we can finally deal with the Fox.
Of course. I'll do everything within my power to find her.
Very good. Now remove yourself from my sight. I'm tired of looking upon your corrupted form. Calico nodded, bowed, and quickly exited the throne room. Normally, she would walk outside the city limits, wander into the forest, and then open a rift straight to Grimir's cabin. But today, something compelled her to just walk down the main road of Hexad for a while. Some of the citizens looked at her with fear or disgust, taking their children with their tiny wings and halos and hiding away in their homes. Yet some, a number that increased almost daily, did not gaze upon her with hate any longer. Calico shyly looked down at her sandals. Whatever was compelling her onward drew her down an unassuming alleyway. Compared to human cities, one could eat off the ground of an angelic alley, metaphorically speaking. Calico walked until she was roughly in the middle of the alley, then stopped. She could smell something rotting and pressed a hand to her mouth. A wet slap came from behind her, and she quickly turned, coming face to face with a very pale angel, dark hair shrouding their eyes, an open wound allowing their intestines to slip from beneath their tunic and onto the ground. Calico gagged and looked away as the rotting angel slowly stuffed their organs back into their body and held the wound closed until it regenerated. A grey warpstone crystal grew rapidly out of their arm, and they simply grabbed it, broke it off, and tossed it lazily behind them.
How is my beloved holding up?
Calico shook her head slightly, still gagging.
So we've talked about this. You smell like you just died. Take a bath.
She paused, eyes widening as she turned back to the rotting angel.
Callista, I'm sorry. I didn't...
Callista laughed softly.
I take no offense, Alexandria. I apologize for the smell. I was out of the capital for the past few weeks in business for Petra, and I haven't had a chance to relax or regenerate my body. Is Morgan well?
Calico looked at a distant point just over Callista's head. While the power of a saint held the angel's body together, she was quite literally a walking corpse. The effects of warp rot had killed her long ago, yet sheer determination for a single goal is what kept her animated. While her decayed form no longer suffered from warp rot, whenever she regenerated, empty grey warpstones would sprout from her body. Despite the decay and smell, which was easily rectified with a simple bath, Callista was by no means an ugly monstrosity. Her undead body held a sort of unnatural beauty, but the knowledge that some part of her could fall off or rip open at any moment had conditioned Calico to be prepared to look away.
Morgan's as tough as ever. She's still mercifully tired of fighting, but she still wields your sword as if it were her own.
Callista smiled in reminiscence.
Twisted Twilight is what she began calling it, if I recall.
Callista crossed her arms and looked down at her feet.
I still remember its beautiful silver glow, back when it was still just twilight.
Calico looked down slightly to meet Callista's eyes.
Why don't you go see her? She took up residence in Moonlight, my old village.
Callista sighed and nervously grasped at her arm.
You know I can't do that, Alexandria. I don't want her last memory of me to be of what a hideous corpse I've become. Once my mission's complete, though, I hope to see her one last time. You're not hideous, Callie. You're still as beautiful as the day we met, and I'm sure Morgan would say the same.
The undead angel's eyes widened for a moment, before she smiled a little more.
That means a lot to me, Alexandria. Thank you.
Calico hesitated for a moment.
Was there something else you wanted? You don't normally lure me down an alley like this.
Callista nodded.
I'd like to request a favor. There is a friend of mine. There are those that wish to bring her harm and are searching for her. Her name is Rias.
Calico nodded.
I know of Rias. He's known as the Sword Saint. He's an Ascended. One of the first Ascended. Yes. Rias lives amongst the Garronites of Ironkeep. I would like you to find her and take her back to Hell with you. And her sister and reunite them. Deserves to survive.
The alley filled with a bloated silence for a moment. Callista sighed at Calico's blank look.
Now, Alex. I've heard the rumors as well as Petra. New queen in Hell. By the sounds of it, she's of the soul aspect. Boy went left, I'd imagine. I've been fully truthful with you, Alex. In addition to reuniting her with her sister, I'd like you to ask Rias to assist this new queen. It's important.
Calico hesitated.
That's the wrong color. How do you know all this?
Callista smiled sadly.
No one pays attention to a dead body, Alex.
Callista beat her barely held together wings and flew into the air whilst Calico opened a rift to Hell, her mind full to bursting with thoughts. She had a lot to process. Chapter 31. An Unexpected Visit. Ever since Calico and Evelyn had pushed Da Vinci to reunite with Rise, the inventor hadn't left Hell's Gate. Understandably, she'd heard that Asbestos was very angry to lose his only engineer, but Da Vinci had taught Callisto well. The boy wasn't as skilled as her, she was a demon after all, but he did well enough. It was almost like Da Vinci had never left. Together with Rise, Da Vinci had been helping run the Demonsmith shop, and they had spent a late night forging a grand warhammer as a commission for some fallen angel from Molisco. Currently, Da Vinci laid in bed in the small back room dorm connected to Rise's workshop. After a few moments, she sat up slightly, looking to her side. Rise was still snoozing softly, facing the wall. While the inventor still wasn't ready to fully commit to anything, Rise only had the one bed, and neither refused to allow the other to sleep on the floor. Da Vinci carefully slid her legs off the bed and stood up, glancing at a pile of empty bottles in the corner. Some Malta whiskey, some of them various types of demon wine. Da Vinci sighed.
Rise, why do you drink so much?
The architect responded with a laugh.
I always have. Did you never notice when I used to mentor you?
Da Vinci walked over to the small desk by the door, and then picked up a backpack and trench coat off the chair, slipping them both on.
Jackie, come back.
Da Vinci glanced back at the bed, fearing she'd somehow woken up her companion, but Rise was still deeply asleep. The inventor remembered what a human scholar, a disciple of her cousin, had once told her, how if you scream in your dream, you whimper in reality. It made the inventor wonder for a moment, but she quickly shook her head and slipped out of the room into the workshop. There were some finishing touches she had to put on the warhammer. As noon rolled around in the realm of hell, Da Vinci had done some random maintenance to Rise's automated machinery, made several sales, and etched a few runes into some of the magical weapons in the smaller half of the workshop. In her downtime, she dragged a chair into the front of the store and sat behind the counter with her feet up, sketching in her codex. While she'd technically written 3 black books when she was the speaker, the Codex of Machines was technically not finished. It was less a book and more of hundreds of pages of blueprints for new and wondrous devices, and improvements for existing ones. Despite only holding blueprints, like all of the 13 codices, it contained its own unique magic, generally allowing Da Vinci to alter her body in various ways, primarily accelerated healing. In the hands of a mortal, the Codex of Machines would allow swift construction of contraptions that could definitely be used in a warlike capacity. One of the reasons she was forced to leave Ferris, to keep it out of King Zacharias' hands. In addition to the Codex of Machines, she had left the Clockwork Compendium, her second codex, with Rise, who had hidden it away but used the intimate knowledge within to try replicating Da Vinci's unique style of inventions. There was a third codex known as the Eternity Code, and it was the first codex the inventor had written. The magic the book held rivaled that of the Dark and 10th Codexes combined, both being Cagliostro's strongest books. Da Vinci had never experimented with it, and after the sacking of the art, she had tossed it into a river. It lay there in Ferris, right under the Iron King's nose. Da Vinci sighed softly. Maybe it was a good thing Asbestos had incidentally alerted the madman to her whereabouts. He'd come for her, and not search his own lands for the Eternity Code. Da Vinci glanced up at the clock on the wall and smirked to herself, counting down from 100. As she hit 0, the workshop door swung open and Rise stepped out, taking a swig from a whiskey bottle before screwing the top back on and dropping it into a rift that opened beneath it. Da Vinci watched the rift close. Technically, lessers could not open rifts. They lacked the power to do so. While there were some, Rise, by state of existence, should not have been able to, being an aspectless demon.
Where do you keep getting those?
Rise grinned with a bit of drunken defiance, reopening the rift and pulling out an entirely full bottle.
My pocket.
Rise quickly dropped the bottle back in as the entrance bell jingled. Both of them looked over as Grimnir stomped up to the counter and smiled down at the pair. Rise brushed herself off, and her intoxication seemed to fade instantly. She smiled politely.
Mr. Frostbite, it's been too long. How's life in the Blakely?
Grimnir chuckled as he placed a runed one-handed axe on the counter. Blizzard's runes are getting a tad dull. If it ain't too much trouble, I was wondering if you could, what is the phrase you use? Re-rune.
Close enough. The runes haven't fully faded, so it shouldn't take me too long. Come on, Jack.
Rise took the axe and headed into the back room. Da Vinci hesitated for a moment before following. Away from Grimnir's eyes, Rise's balance began to suffer, yet she continued onward, walking over to her pile of warpstone and beginning to dig through it.
Jack, help me find a cyan warpstone.
Da Vinci slipped a codex into her backpack and began digging around as well. Cyan warpstone was not a naturally occurring color, but like a large amount of the crystals here, it was artificially created by Rise. Cyan, specifically, was simply green warpstone infused with a frost aspect. Still weak in other regards, but surprisingly strong in anything related to its infused aspect. A few crystals managed to slide down the pile, out of the storage box, and shattered on the floor from Rise's intoxicated digging. She sighed as she finally pulled out a cyan one.
Jackie, could you...
The inventor sighed and smiled.
Yeah, I got it.
With surprising efficiency, Rise soon redrew the axe runes and walked past Da Vinci back into the main store. Da Vinci had not followed, as she had still been cleaning up the mess, but the door had not closed all the way, though she could hear the conversation the two had. "Thank you kindly, Miss Rise. How much?" Rise smiled and bowed her head slightly.
On the house, Mr. Frostpike. Just let Alana and Calico know I said hello.
Grimnir chuckled. "Aye, I will." There was a single footstep before Grimnir spoke again. "Rise, got a question for you. You ever dipped a finger into the river of death?" Da Vinci raised an eyebrow, growing concerned as she heard Rise shakily reply.
Yes.
There was a short hesitation before Grimnir spoke again, his voice lowered. "There's no need to be afraid, Architect."
If Zoe finds out...
Grimnir sighed. "I know, believe me, I know. This is for the best, though. The Queen of Souls is going to need your support. None of us will let anything happen to you or the Inventor Rise." Grimnir began to walk away again, speaking normally. "Maybe next time I'll carry the girls on my shoulders and bring them here for a visit."
That'd be nice, Grimnir.
Rise giggled, but as soon as Grimnir had left the store, she sat down on a stool and sighed. Da Vinci slipped out of the store.
What was that about? Who's the Queen of Souls? You were listening?
Da Vinci sighed.
You don't close the door hard enough when you're drunk, Rise.
The architect brushed her hair out of her eyes with her fingers and looked away sheepishly.
It's... nothing. Are you afraid of Zoe? Did she...
The bell jingled again, and both of them faked smiles looking over at who entered.
Hello, welcome.
Rise drifted off, her eyes widening in horror. A cracked wooden mask, painted white and ever smiling, approached the counter, attached to a robe and hooded figure. A dark chuckle emanated from beneath it. Ah, Cagliostro, okay. Oh, Rise. It is truly a pleasure to finally meet the great architect. I've heard many things about you. All good things, I promise. Da Vinci stepped up to the counter, one hand reaching back to the clockwork axe, sheathed in her backpack. Her single eye glared angrily.
What do you want, Cag?
Cagliostro pressed 3 fingers to his forehead and sighed, shaking his head. Memory is such a fickle thing, cousin. I did tell you I wanted to visit. He rubbed the chin of his mask. I'm surprised you forgot. You did try to kill me with my own codex when I mentioned the idea. He did a slow twirl, looking around the shop. You have a nice place here, architect.
Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm here, cousin. He quickly turned to facing Da Vinci again. I have a question. I'm aware you do not have any of mine, but have you any knowledge as to the whereabouts of my books? The inventor shook her head. None at all? Cagliostro sighed, slipping his hands into his sleeves and going silent for a moment. I see. Are you sure? Da Vinci got slightly frustrated.
I don't know where your goddamn books are, and I wouldn't tell you even if I did.
She recoiled slightly as Cagliostro slammed his hands on the counter. Cousin, I don't care where they are. I care that the former queen does not get their hands on them. In this current moment in time, they could be drowning at the bottom of the ocean or laying in bottomless pits. Da Vinci hesitated, her arm lowering from her axe. She'd never seen Cag like this before. Cagliostro's fists clenched and he lowered his head slightly. Cousin, you and I hate each other. You don't trust me. I could care less about your entire existence, but right now, for both of our sakes, if you come across any of my books, keep them. Rise stood up.
Listener, what's going on?
Cagliostro let out a hysterical laugh. Quite possibly the worst mistake ever made. The return of the Queen's memories and the repetition of history. I tried to stop her, but she's immune to the Chronodex. Cagliostro turned his mask towards Rise. Inform your precious queen that she should really think about handling the fox. Inform your precious queen that she should really think about handling the fox before it's too late. Cagliostro stood and brushed off his robes. That's all I came here for. Cagliostro hesitated for a moment, reaching up to his mask and starting to take it off, but quickly stopped and sighed. Cousin, architect. He bowed and turned silently, walking back out the door.
What the hell is going on?
Rise hesitated, then remanifested her whiskey bottle and held it out to Da Vinci.
I think it's time you and I had a long talk, Jackie.
Chapter 32. The High Saint of Blades. With the plan decided on, Evelyn and Styx stopped at the cabin to check on Eris and to make sure Calico was watching the little demon. Styx was relieved to see that despite Cagliostro's damning words, Eris had not gotten worse and could wander around the cabin for short periods of time. Salem proceeded to open a rift to a random field in the dark steppes, taking Evelyn, Styx, and Phobos there, before the Saint of Madness himself left them to locate Argos. Styx sighed, popping her coat's collar up against the rain-swept, windy fields of the dark steppes.
What makes you think Lara will do any better? Remind me?
Styx looked at Evelyn for a moment and smiled softly.
Because she's his sister. He'll be hesitant to kill her. He's been looking for all this time, right? Besides, it's not like anyone needs to die. I just need openings so I can touch Argos and claim him.
Evelyn slipped her hands into her pockets, a corroded halo offering a faint light source. A lightning bolt lit them up for a moment. Phobos laid in the grass, seemingly pretending to be dead. Evelyn smirked and kicked one of its metal limbs.
Having fun down there.
Phobos let out a wheeze and stood up to his hunched-over state, metal clanking softly.
Not very talkative all of a sudden, huh?
Styx patted Phobos' head.
He needs a vessel to speak through, otherwise all I can do is wheeze and laugh.
Evelyn's eyes lit up in realization.
Ah, so that's why you never talked back when I still attended Dark Saint meetings.
Styx walked over to Evelyn's side and pointed to a high-up light that pierced the dark clouds.
What's that, Ev? Oh, that's Pergatus, City of Flame.
Another lightning bolt crackled across the sky, offering enough light to briefly see the fortress city far in the distance.
They say you can see that beacon no matter where you go out here in the steppes.
Styx nodded with slight fascination. She looked at Evelyn, noting how focused the Fallen seemed. She still hadn't crushed any warpstone.
Ev, are you feeling okay?
The angel nodded her head, not verbally answering.
Alright then. Man, what's taking Salem so long? It's freaking cold out here.
Evelyn wrapped her rotted wings around herself to shade herself from the rain and wind. Phobos stood up to his full height, towering over the pair. His piercing red gaze stared off into the darkness, and after a few moments, one of his metal claws rose, pointing. Evelyn and Styx followed the claw and saw a lantern heading their way. Two individuals, barely visible, but heading their way.
Faster than I expected, to be honest. Is Alara ready?
Styx smiled nervously.
Just got a tug on her soul and she'll be here in an instant.
Carkid Comedy, thank you so much for the follow. As Argos got close enough for his lantern to shine on Styx, Her eyes had already changed to their green and purple variant. She used Soul Blight like a walking stick to lean on, and smiled softly. Styx stepped forward slightly and held out his hand, like he was showing Styx off.
Salem. I was supposed to say Salem.
Oh.
Fuck.
Oh, oops. Here she is, Argos, the Queen of Souls, the one who has laid claim to your dear oldest sister. Salem quickly melted away into shadow. Argos pulled his angelic and mortal blades from their sheaths with a smile that did little to hide the anger the Archangel felt. Despite the immaculate state of his armor, the gold reflecting the rain like a mirror, his face was disheveled, and there was fuzz on his normally clean-shaven face. Styx felt a little bad. This man had been searching for leather for so long, and now... I heard that killing you will free leather from your hold, little demon. How about you lay down and die? Make this easier for all of us. Styx shook her head.
As the Queen of Souls, that wouldn't be very queenly of me, would it?
Argos, up to this point, had been holding the chain of his lantern and his angelic sword hilt at the same time. He placed the lantern on the ground and got into a battle stance. We're just gonna talk or what, bitch?
Oh, I'm not going to be the one fighting you.
Styx's hand ignited with green flame as she made a slight tugging motion. Pfft. Call yourself a queen. You won't even fight me yourself. Fine then. Send in your replacement, your highness. The honorific dripped sarcasm, but Styx ignored it.
We should stand back.
Styx nodded to Evelyn, and they both took a few steps back. Argos began laughing. Bring it on. I am the guardian of the Hexawing, slayer of the fallen. I founded a combat school, and there isn't a damn soul in the 3 realms that can best me. I am the goddamn Saint of Blades. The first thing that tossed a spear through Argos's bravado was when the grass ignited and a trail of flame quickly followed, forming a bright and circular arena around them all. Wait a second. I know those flames. A silver-armored angel slammed down between Styx and Argos, manifesting a flaming sword. She stood up and tossed her hair behind her. Her wings and halo seemed to burn brightly with fire.
Hello, little brother.
Argos could not form words from the anger welling up inside him, so he simply snarled.
I'm sorry, dear brother.
Lara got into a battle stance. Chapter 33. The flame is snuffed. The King of Heaven sat idly on his throne, head propped on his arm. Callista, Saint of Decay, stood next to the throne as his bodyguard for the day, and at the bottom of the throne steps were some of the high saints and a few random guards, namely Kazakh, ever armored, leaning on his axe. Salonia, an orange-eyed, red-headed angel that had taken up the position of Saint of Prosperity after Evelyn's fall. Irina, the Saint of Battle, a fully armored battle angel, showing off some of her weapons to some interested nobles. And finally, Lazarus, a robed angel, his face shrouded in shadow, but his intentions pure. Saint of Retribution, and one of the 2 lawmakers for Petra's kingdom. So many random conversations were going on as a meeting had just concluded. Petra listened in with slight boredom. He sat up slightly. Callista, do you know where Isaac and Argos are? The undead angel thought for a moment, then shook her head slightly.
No, your grace. I think Isaac went out to look for Argos. If I remember correctly, he'd heard Argos was sighted in the steppes or something.
Petra nodded. You make a fine bodyguard, seeing as you're nothing more than a walking corpse, but I must admit, I grow tired of you bleeding on my throne. Callista frowned and opened her mouth to speak, but Petra interrupted. Yes, yes, save me the spiel, Callista. One day you'll kill me, blah, blah, blah. Petra sighed. What I wouldn't give for some action around here once in a while. Ruling with an iron fist has its downsides. A few moments later, the throne room doors slammed open. One of the guards impaled to one and desperately trying to rip the sword out of his abdomen. All eyes turned to the sight, eyes widening. There was scared mumbling from the nobles. Guards began to gather and move towards the door when a red flash blinded everyone present. In only a few seconds, the throne room was filled with screams and sickening splashes of blood. When sight returned, every guard and noble was dead, leaving only the high saints still standing, their weapons drawn. Petra stood up. "What is the meaning of this?" Clappings came from the doors. A fox-eared demon grinned sadistically before reaching up and effortlessly pulling her sword out the door, impaled guard. Whispers circulated amongst the high saints. Irina manifested a sword and ornate great shield and stepped forward in front of Kazakh, who brandished his axe. "Are you insane, Zoe?" The Queen of Hell laughed loudly.
Maybe a little. Come on, Petra. Weren't you just asking for a little fun? I'm bored too, you know.
Lazarus stepped forward, holding out his sword, brandishing it towards the Hell Queen. "Leave. Now." Zoe pouted.
Aw, Lazzy, you're so grown up now. Last time I saw you, you were, well, you didn't wear a robe, that's for sure.
Petra took a step forward, manifesting a two-handed greatsword. "Fox, remove yourself from my throne room before I strike you down where you stand." Callista hesitated. Her ultimate goal could be completed right here and now. But she gripped Petra's arm and pushed him behind her, brandishing her blade.
You can't fight all of us, Fox.
Zoe winked, manifesting Hellbringer in her other hand.
You think I can't? Lazzy, children shouldn't play with swords. Put it down before you cut off someone's head. Lazarus.
"I will not be disrespected by the likes of you, demon." Lazarus lunged forward. He was quickly sidestepped both of Zoe's blades, slicing across his back, forcing him to arch backwards. And as he fell, Misery's end cleaved downward and sliced off his head. Blood began to pool rapidly on the floor, and Zoe giggled.
I did warn him.
There was utter silence for a few moments.
You know, Petra, normally I wouldn't do this, but I noticed Argos is preoccupied, and...
She started giggling louder. It sounded more unhinged.
Listen.
She turned to face the stunned survivors, shouldering Misery's end and pointing Hellbringer's jagged tip towards them.
The blood's gotta flow. I don't care where it comes from, as long as it flows. So who wants to go next?
As Styx had predicted, Argos was hesitant to strike down Lera, and not to mention, despite his transgressions against the Fallen in his anger, he had had many times to strike down Styx but continued to face Lera. The Watcher had to give him that at least. He was honorable to an extent. One difference between the two was that Lera fought as if it were life or death, whilst Argos seemed desperate to create an opening with which to restrain his sibling. Their fighting had taken them all round the fiery arena to the point that Phobos and Evelyn had stepped outside the ring, but remained nearby Styx, who refused to step out. Partially due to the fact she was cold and she liked the warmth of the arena's flames at her back. Partially because, as a queen, she felt she was obligated to stand there. She had started to hold Soul Blight in front of her, in case of rogue swings. Salem had returned at some point holding a different lantern, and stood at the other side of the arena. He seemed utterly disinterested, as if he already knew who would win. And Styx smirked a little, remembering his words about seeing all possible outcomes so nothing would be surprising. After a while, Argos seemed to be gaining the upper hand, only to lose it again as Lera utilized her powers and the flames of her sword blazed brighter. Concerningly, however, Argus's attempts to disarm Leda became bolder and bolder, and his tolerance to the flame became stronger and stronger. Styx came to a startling realization after watching Argus's attempt to punch the flaming sword with his own hilt. Argus used his left hand and the mortal blade in it to stave off Leda's attacks, constantly reaching forward to disarm with his right. He was killing the nerves in his hand. Eventually, the fire would cease to bother him. Leda seemed to realize this as well and began fighting more fiercely.
Brother, neither of us have to die here. Obey the will of the Queen of Souls, who's been nothing but kind to me. I've lived amongst the fallen and...
Something seemed to shift in the Saint of Blades, and his aggression ramped up in intensity, driving Leda towards the edge of the ring.
Styx, I got a bad feeling.
You should have died from your wounds, Leda. There was so much raw emotion in Argus's yell. Styx felt her heart beat faster. She could feel the end of the fight approaching. And look at you now, associated with those fallen mongrels, eating demons! Leda attempted to block a sword swing, but as she locked blades with one, the other's flat, slammed against her hand, knocking her sword from her grip. She flapped her wings hard, sending a wave of flame against Argus, but he shielded himself with his arms and marched forward through it. Another sword swing took her leg, and the pain caused her to fall to the ground, screaming. She bit her lip hard enough to draw blood and reached up pleadingly. A tear rolled down Argus's cheek. You were destined to die, Leda. So please, go peacefully into the River of Souls.
Argus, wait, please.
Argus made the death as quick as possible, impaling his mortal blade straight through her heart. The flames of the arena snuffed out suddenly. Salem melted into the shadows, leaving the original trio behind. Even with their demonic sight, for some reason Argus's halo had stopped glowing, and no one could see him anymore in the dark.
Where did he go?
Styx backed up until she felt one of Evelyn's rotted wings against her back. Phobos stood between the two, watching the other angle.
So much for your plan, Styx. I didn't think he'd snap like that.
That damned angel with the artificial wing took her from me the first time. Styx whirled around towards where she heard the voice. Her mismatched eyes still could not see anything. The rain pelting her face and the wind blowing her hair into her eyes was not helping. A lightning bolt lit up the sky, and finally they saw him, seemingly pacing circles slowly around them. I had resigned myself to the fact that her wounds were dire. I resolved to be by her side in her final moments. Another bolt, revealing he was closer now, still pacing in circles. Phobos's metal limbs creaked as he lurched to the side and stepped in front of Styx to protect her. Evelyn manifested Pox, gripping its organic hilt tightly, watching us their six. When I heard she was missing, I was devastated. I abandoned my duties as the Saint of Blades and as a bodyguard to my Lord Petra to search for her. I bumped into that dwarf bastard whilst I searched hell. He told me the reality of the situation. I had already suspected. I'd heard the rumors.
The assassin.
The demon I hired was ordered to find the bitch that took my sister. Argus chuckled darkly as another lightning bolt revealed him now standing and facing them, a sword in either hand. I suppose, since you know about it, he found you easily. Seems the denizens of hell are more informed about you than us angels. Phobos swung a metal claw into the darkness, and sparks flew as the claw was deflected off a sword blade. A follow-up swing slaughtered only the shadows, as there was no longer anyone there. Evelyn shivered, getting the voice almost in her ear. I was told that killing the Queen of Souls was the only way to get my sister back. Evelyn swung wildly, but another lightning bolt lit up the dark sky. Argos was nowhere to be seen. Styx shivered.
Evelyn, open rift back to hell. You have to leave. Now.
Evelyn hesitated. Something was wrong.
Evelyn?
You know, I came to realize something, Queen of Souls. She called you kind. You seek to rule hell, but you are no better than the fox. What sort of just ruler forces their siblings to kill each other?
Phobos?
The demonic puppet looked toward Ladder's corpse, and Styx mentally facepalmed. It somehow lost his skull before coming here, and without a head, he could not speak, which meant he could not open a rift. Carkid Comedy, thank you for the hydrate. Styx hesitated, then slapped his metal back.
Thank you for the comment, Carcade Comedy. He likes our voices, Rex.
Oh, well, thank you.
Also, thank you for the stretch, Cassie. Thank you for the tier 1 subscription, Jarsky. Welcome back to Club Pact. Enjoy the discounts on drinks. We'll grab her head and get us out of here.
As soon as Phobos had creaked a few steps away, Argos took up his original position and swung horizontally with both blades. Evelyn pushed Styx down, both of them ducking beneath the swings. As much as I want to see your head fly from your lifeless body, Fallen, get out of my way! Argos followed up a swing, which Evelyn barely blocked with pox. She could hear the spear's handle solidify and crack before the corrupted handle split in two. Phobos wheezed and attempted to barrel into Argos, but the Saint of Blades sidestepped, driving both his blades into the metal cage at the Saint of Fear's core. As an unholy screech echoed across the fields, Argos used the momentum to guide Phobos in a circle and slam him into Evelyn, who had just managed to stand up and regenerate her spear's handle. With both of them down, Argos turned to Styx. The Watcher frantically got to her feet and looked round. They should have had this fight next to a river or a lake. She could have summoned her ferry. She couldn't use one of the coins as the rift would close as soon as she was through, and she refused to abandon Evelyn and Phobos. She unfolded her scythe blade and got into a battle stance, gritting her teeth.
Guess it's my turn.
Argos laughed loudly, walking towards her, blades at his sides. I'm going to make your death as slow and as painful as possible, demon. Styx gripped Soulblight tighter.
Once I take your soul, I'm going to erase half of it and leave you with whatever broken, jagged garbage remains.
Argos let out another laugh before lunging forward. Styx raised Soulblight's handle, letting out a scream as one of Argos's swords slammed against the spot she was holding the scythe. As the scythe fell from her grip, Argos let loose a follow-up swing, severing Styx's arm, and another blow impaled Styx through the stomach. Argos kicked her off the blade, where she gasped in pain, grasping her abdomen wound. The Saint of Blades folded his blades across each other and pressed them to the sides of Styx's neck like scissors. What was that about erasing my soul? Styx's mismatched eyes stared defiantly.
I still intend to do so.
Argus turned his head to the side, slightly confused, as he heard a squelching noise. He watched in frozen horror as Phobos had gripped Leda's body, his claws wrapped round her head, and with a single move raised her and slammed her skull back down with enough force to crush it into nothing. Blood and brain matter scattered around the impact. Argos's face became red with pure rage, and he let go of both blades, pulling his third sword from his sheath and running towards Argos, screaming in emotional agony and an utter need to destroy the puppet. Sticks slipped out from the swords.
Oh boy, my favorite part, trying to pronounce Icelandic. Oh no, that's you. It's Salem.
Oh, that's... Oh, okay. Florsen Uganga. You little shit!
There's one for the highlight reel.
Styx felt someone grab her and shove her through the newly opened rift. The last thing she saw was Salem's sword, the maddening blade, sparking as it deflected a blow from Argos. The last thing she heard was Phobos's maniacal, wheezing laughter. She was falling. 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 Chasing a crown she would never see.
Damn, I need more characters
Chapter 34.
to scream.
What's that?
I need more characters to scream because you do it so well.
Oh, I have to use it sparingly. My poor voice. Talk of which, hang on. Need to have another sip of my tea.
Well, Cassie, I translated that Icelandic back and forth. It does make sense. I know what it says. I just can't pronounce it.
I can barely pronounce it myself. Frossen Agungo, I think. That's scream broccoli. Oh.
You should have heard its first scream like 2 streams ago when he said silence.
I've got that as a redeem, by the way, Car Kid. If you look through there, I think it's somewhere. Yeah, there it is. Let me play it for you.
Thank you for the hydrating stretch, Cassie. And the aria.
Anyway. To remind me not to put my ear to my speak. Oh no! I'm sorry, Car Kid.
Did you scare him again?
I think so. He had the speaker up to his ear.
Oh no.
Oh dear. Sorry about that. Right. Continuing on. Chapter 34. Iron Blood. Styx was woken up by the cold. She was used to it usually, but this was significantly chillier than her passive coldness. She shakily stood up and saw the dried blood on her stomach. Her eyes widened and hotter at her missing arm. Suddenly her head felt as if it was splitting open and she fell back to her knees, crunching against the snow underneath her. The soul flame ignited from her stump and started to form an outline of an arm. The headache intensified for a moment, and Styx gripped her chest, groaning in pain as her arm began to rapidly reconstitute flesh and bone. After only a few seconds, her arm was back. Her power had also sealed the stab wound in her stomach and burned the bloodstain out of her trench coat, cauterizing the clothing back together. Somehow. Styx wasn't sure how flames could reform clothing. Whatever. She sighed and stood up, sighing in relief as she managed to ignite the soul flame in her left hand again. She snuffed it out and looked around the snowy plain she found herself in.
Am I in tyranny?
She tried to tug on Salem's soul, but when he didn't manifest, she remembered he was likely still fighting for his life. The Watcher sighed. That meant she couldn't call on Phobos or Evelyn either. Not to mention that she'd dropped Soul Blight. So here she was, in the land of the Northmen, without her scythe. A quick check of her pockets showed her coins and pistol were gone too.
Fuck.
Right, what's this then, boys? Don't look like any monster I've ever seen. Styx gasped and whirled around. Somehow she'd been snuck up on. There were 4 roughly 7 foot tall, axe-toting men in front of her. Yep. This was Garani. The first one that had spoken wore leather pants with a fur-lined cape. His chest bare, showing his chiseled muscles. His black beard went down nearly to his abs and was braided with a ruined ring at the bottom. He hefted a sword, chuckling. The one next to him was fully armored, their silver beard still sticking out beneath their helmet. The armored one wielded a 2-handed great axe and took a step closer, looking down at Styx.
It's got animal ears. Dreaming.
The other 2 were dressed similarly to the first, although with chainmail tunics. He's got pretty eyes. The last one chuckled darkly. Last beastie I saw with any eyes at all had hundreds of them. Styx laughed nervously.
I'll just be going.
The armored one reached out and grasped Styx's shoulder harshly. Yeah, come in with us. Causa will decide what to do. It went silent suddenly, as Styx furrowed her brow and gripped his gauntlet tightly. Her hand ignited, and the soul flame's power penetrated the armor, claiming the soul of the Gedanite within. Hymira.
Disarm as many as you can.
With an unexpected movement, the Gedanite known as Hymir roared, and with a mighty cleave swung his axe round toward his companions. The first's head was knocked from their shoulders, but the next 2 managed to raise their weapons. Hymir proved to be quite strong, as the 2 Gedanites were floored into the snow. Styx quickly ran over and gripped some part of them in turn, claiming their souls as well. She stood up and sighed in relief, then picked up the sword from the dead Gedanite.
Huh. Minimite steel. Didn't know you guys raided that far.
She looked to the only one she knew the name of.
Hey, Hymir, take me to Kos.
Damn Blackbeard pack. Indeed, Carkid, indeed. Zoe lunged forward, locking blades with Callista, grinning sadistically.
Get out of the way, stupid zombie, or I'll bury you 6 feet under the rubble of this fucking castle.
Hexat was on high alert, and after Lazarus had been killed, the remaining High Saints had become much more cautious, working together to stay alive. After a while, Petra demanded they leave and evacuate the city. The prospect of killing Petra was too sweet to pass up, and so Zoe had let the High Saints flee. Except for the stupid undead one, of course. The Queen of Hell shoved Callista away, raising her swords just in time to block Petra's gigantic greatsword. The force of the swing slid her slightly across the floor. She giggled.
You're strong, Petra. Are you strong enough to beat me?
Callista charged from behind, and Zoe simply contorted her body around and kicked the undead angel hard in the stomach before sliding under Petra's blade and trying to stab him in the side with Misery's end. 3 pairs of wings flapped in unison, propelling the 6-winged king away from the strike. He landed again, wiping sweat from his brow.
Aw, getting tired, Petra. You know, for a tyrant, you sure do seem to care about this shithole's people.
Ha! Tyrant! Petra laughed out loud, glancing to his side to see Callista regenerating her body and slowly standing again. Compared to you, I'm the kindest man in the realms. Zoe took a step forward, raising Hellbringer. When the throne room doors flew open again, Argos dragged his feet slightly, blood splattered across his armor, and a crack in his halo, but he still stood strong. Can't a man be by his sister's side as she leaves this world for the next without the city plunging into chaos? Argos wiped rain off his face. Zoe turned to face the Saint of Blades and grinned.
Ah, Argos. There you are.
Argos looked at Petra and Callista and jerked his head towards the doors behind him. Zoe sighed.
Yes, of course, save them, whatever.
She grinned as Petra and Callista warily walked away, facing her the entire time. Neither Zoe nor Argos moved until the throne room doors began to close. I wish you luck, Saint of Blades. Argos let out a pained laugh. I do not need luck, my lord. The doors creaked shut, and suddenly both angel and demon lunged forward. Blades clashed, grunts of exertion echoed through the empty throne room, sparks flew out about constantly, as for once both were evenly matched.
You know, with my memory back, I remember all your fancy little tricks, Argos. You better make this fun for me. I haven't had a good challenging battle since the Ancient War.
They locked blades and Argos snarled. I dare say you're twice as vile and insane than you were before. Zoe giggled.
Maybe.
Just when it was getting good, Zoe's wrist throbbed, almost causing her to fail to block a strike. She teleported backwards a few feet, forcing Argos to charge after her.
What the hell?
More throbs followed. Zoe's wrist, slit open innumerable times to form pacts with mortals, had gone numb centuries ago. The magically manipulated nerves only caused pain if someone tried to betray her pacts. While she had no idea who could possibly be turning against her, the suddenly constant throbs meant only one place: Gerani. Zoe angrily slapped aside one of Argos' swords and teleported back again.
This isn't over, Saints of Blades, but I have business to attend to elsewhere.
She vanished with a spurt of demon flame. Alone in the throne room, Argos fell to his hands and knees, dropping his swords and breathing heavily. He glanced to the side to see Lazarus's decapitated body, along with the slaughter of the nobles and battle angels dotting the throne room. Argos clenched his fist. What was this, Hell Queen? Letting us know you're back and returning to your old ways? I'm going to do a terrible idea and put both my phones on both my ears. Oh dear.
Is he saying the same things in your chat, or are you just reading mine?
I'm reading from mine.
Because he said the exact same thing.
Oh. Styx had decided she hated the sword she'd picked up, and as soon as she was able, she picked up a two-handed axe, like the armored Gedanite Hymir. Her limited experience with a scythe transferred a bit better to an axe than a one-handed sword, although her goal was subjugation, not killing. It hadn't taken long for her to take over a small raiding camp, claiming nearly everyone's souls. From there, she'd moved on to another camp, then another, before finally marching with a small army on a larger raiding camp on the coastline. As Gedanite fought Gedanite, Styx wondered briefly what she was doing. She long passed the I'm doing this for my own safety phase. Then again, Salem did say she needed souls to be able to hold the Obsidian Throne. She justified herself with that knowledge as battle raged around her. She looked on in horror as Hymir was flung out of a tent, helmet gone, and axe embedded deeply into his skull. All fighting suddenly stopped. Out of the tent stepped a heavily armored Gedanite. He was absolutely massive, 7.5, if not 8 feet tall. The horns of his dark helm curved skyward, and the tattered cape attached to his armor was covered at the neck and shoulders by a mantle of dire wolf fur. A chain connected 2 skulls to the bottom of his armor, and in his left hand was a gigantic rectangular shield, an entire skeleton tied to it. He stepped over the man he had killed and ripped the ruined axe from their skull. Runes on the axe blade glowed a bright red, reveling in the spillage of blood. Styx had heard legends about Kos, but never actually seen him before. But seeing this man now, there was no doubt this was Kos, the Fell-Handed, champion of Gerani. chosen of the Saint of Blood. I'm gonna try redeem stretch at the same time on both.
But my mother's calling me downstairs for something, so I'll be a couple minutes.
Alright.
Give it some time to rest your voice.
Yes. Carkit, thank you for the stretch redeem. Right, let's take a moment here. If you haven't already, do make sure that you're following both of us across both platforms. Zoe the Demon Fox's Twitch is tagged in the stream title on my side. I do believe she's also tagged my name. Do give us both a follow if you haven't already. And also make sure that you follow us across all platforms. We both have YouTube pages. Do make sure that you tap the subscribe button on that. And click the bell to enable all notifications. That way you'll know whenever we post a YouTube video. Mostly our VODs, but that's another thing. If you missed any part of tonight's stream, or any part of our other readings of The Realm, A Tale of Blood and Souls, you're always welcome to go back and watch them on my YouTube page. In fact, let me put that in chat. Link to my YouTube page is available right there, youtube.com/@LordRexworthVT. That's Lord Rexworth VT. Tap the subscribe button, click the bell to enable all notifications, and do make sure to give my videos a like as it helps me with the algorithm. Do the same for Zoe's, it'll help her with the algorithm as well. Also make sure that you're following us on Twitter. Twitter.com/Lord Rexworth, and for Zoe it's twitter.com/Zoe the Demon Fox. I've also got a Throne page, throne.com/Lord Rexworth, throne.com/Lord Rexworth. And then the gates are open. You can join the Castle Rexworth Discord if you are over the age of 18 by clicking the link in my chat, and keep in touch with me whenever I'm not streaming. I'm also a member of a group called Project Astadia. You may see the watermark there on the top left-hand corner of my presentation there. Project Astadia is a VTuber group. We help support each other as we grow as streamers. And so I do invite you to please search us up on Twitter, twitter.com/Project Astadia. Twitter.com/Project Astadia. Please give them a follow on Twitter. Keep up to date with us. New website is going to be launching soon, and that will have all of my information along with information about all of my fellow genmates and colleagues there at Project Astadia. So do make sure that you keep in touch with the entire group. They do have another collab coming up on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern with our UK and EU crew as they play Party Animals. I don't know if I'm going to join them yet. I was there for last week's collab, but it proved to be such a success that we're doing it again this weekend, this Saturday morning on the North American side, Saturday afternoon into the evening on the UK EU side. That's one really good opportunity for our UK EU members to join with North American members and collab together, which is something we've been wanting to do for quite some time now. Trying to find out where in England you're from. Can't just say London, because no, actually not from London. Family's origins are from the north of England and from Scotland. So that's where my family hails from. What? Yeah, that's true. actually a descendant of Highlanders. I didn't know that. Well, I don't really get into it very much because it's it's a long story, but yeah, that's my family origins there. I believe, according to my ancestry DNA test, that I am well, I'm about 60% English, to the surprise of no one. But 20% Scottish, 10% Irish, 5% Welsh, and 5% Scandinavian. So an interesting combination there, but mostly English and Scottish in origin. Not bad, thank you. Yes, based off of research of my family tree and family history, the ancestry DNA test proved to be much more accurate. I had another one done a few years back. I think it was called My Heritage DNA. That was completely and totally off. It was showing me as only 1/4 English and then 1/4 Iberian, which is like Spanish and Portuguese, and then half Scandinavian. It was completely and totally off in the percentages. I hail from Manchester. Oh, very nice. Yes, an Englishman currently living in exile in America. So, even though I've got the funny accent, I'm still counted, at least as far as Project Astaria is concerned, as being amongst the North American streamers. Manchester, it's not. It's what we call a shithole. Well, I mean, familiarity breeding contempt as it does. I think most people would say that about where they live. Very similar for me, but I'm mainly Yorkshire. Oh, Laura, welcome in. Welcome in. Good to see you. Good to see you. So we got Manchester and we got Yorkshire. We've got the North represented here quite thoroughly between between the three of us. I'd like to point out just how different both your background music is, yours and Zoe's. Yeah, I tend to go for a classical playlist. Most streams, especially if I'm going to be doing some reading ASMR. Occasionally, however, I will mix up and do a jazz stream. I think given the stream, the theme of the overall look and feel of my stream setup here, of being here in the library at Castle Rexworth, it's just more appropriate, I think. Yeah. This was a very lovely stream theme that was suggested to me by a friend of mine, Lorelei Chow, who found it on an Etsy shop somewhere, and the price was just practically a steal, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that looks so good, I have to have it. So I have had this for, gosh, I'm trying to remember when I did get this. Must have been, oh, I don't know. Going on 6 months now, I think I've had this theme. But it served me rather well. My library is under my bed and a maximum of 3 books, oh dear. Would one of those happen to be one of your dad's old Playboys? It's very nice. Yes, thank you. I have way too many books. So do I, and unfortunately, a lot of them are in storage now. I've actually had to put a lot of them into storage. Thankfully, I've got an Amazon Kindle, and that gosh, that would hold entire libraries in it, given the size of the files and whatnot. I think I actually have a complete set of the Harvard Classics somewhere in my Amazon Kindle library, which is really good. Which, by the way, if you're all looking for a recommendation of classic literature and other readings, Google the Harvard Classics. It was never really issued as something from Harvard University Press, but it's considered. They call it the 5-foot shelf of knowledge, and basically all of the selections, everything from works of Shakespeare to Gray's Anatomy to Darwin's Origin of the Species to the Lives of Plutarch and selected works on Stoicism, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Basically, if you were to start with one book from the Harvard Classics and go all the way to the very end, you would have a complete classical liberal arts education.
I have returned.
Welcome back! Welcome back! Kindle doesn't give the same feel of a paper book. That's true. That's true. Sometimes there's just no substitute for an actual paper book. Though I will say, when traveling, I do love having my Kindle with me. It makes it so much easier. When I am at home, yes, love having a paper book. So just so much better that way. But definitely when traveling, I do like to take my Kindle with me. That way I've got plenty to choose from to read. Right, so let me see. I think I see where we were at. Don't know anything about books. I know they're made from trees, contain a shed load of knowledge. That's a fairly accurate description there, I'd say. Yeah. Did just recently acquire for my Kindle because it's becoming nigh on impossible to find an unabridged paper copy, but I do have a copy of the History of the English-Speaking Peoples by Winston Churchill. I'd really like to get into that sometime fairly soon. Good read, and still considered by many historians to be the definitive history of Britain. Right, let me get a hydration here. Hydration check.
Consume that tea.
I've run out of the... What's that?
Consume that tea.
I have just finished consuming that, and have switched over to the Topo Chico with lime. All right, shall we continue?
Yes.
Why must I have college? Well, you don't necessarily have to have it, but I don't know. Sometimes
No, I didn't go to college because those debts.
Yeah. I feel like Atlas holding up the entire world in terms of my student loan debt from undergraduate and a graduate degree. Regrets, I've had a few. Anyway, let us continue. Kos looked around slowly at the surviving warriors. Everyone, even the ones under Styx's dominion, had stopped fighting. His helm eventually turned to face Styx, and his deep voice caused her heart to stop. He did not at all sound like a Geronite. I see. So you're the cause of all this trouble. Kos stomped towards her and Styx began to fearfully backpedal. Every day it's got to be something, doesn't it? Styx began to realize what it was about Kos that scared her. His voice was calm and calculating, far from the heavy-accented savages of Gerani. Whatever foul magic you're using to make my boys fight each other, you should know it won't work on me. Kos swung his axe suddenly, Styx barely dodging it as she backed up quickly, terrified. You are fast, little demon. I'll give you that. Styx hesitated. This man could easily and single-handedly kill all of her claimed soldiers if she tried to use them to help. But how would she get close enough to claim Kos? Styx shook her head violently. Why does she even want to claim Kos? Kos laughed loudly and began to stomp forward again. Those she had not claimed boxed her in. Kos raised his axe. You're quite the fearful one, aren't you, little demon? Stand still and I'll make this painless. Styx closed her eyes, then opened them in defiance. Her mismatched eyes stared so intently into Kos's visor that he paused.
I have nothing to fear, Kos, because fear itself is on my side.
A rift opened, and Phobos barreled out of it, slamming into the Gedanite warrior. He snarled as the battle began anew. With Kos distracted, Styx quickly began running around, claiming as many Gedanites as she could, slowly turning the entire camp to her side. She definitely didn't need all of these souls, but now she was justifying herself by needing a shield against Kos. As she turned to check on Phobos, everything fell silent as the battle stopped suddenly again. She sighed.
What is it this time?
Pure horror struck her as she noted that all of those she hadn't claimed yet were kneeling towards a fox-eared figure. Phobos and the claimed raiders stood uncertainly. Zoe looked around in confusion, not yet registering Styx or Phobos' presence.
Kos, I was in the middle of something, so why the fuck are everyone killing each other?
She held up her arm.
My wrist keeps throbbing. I'm losing a lot of packs. I thought you idiots were united under Olaf.
All eyes turned to Kos, who was basically the highest ranked, a leader amongst this camp. He stood up slowly. I, blooded one. Kos paused, looking towards Styx. Foul magic found its way to our lands. Kos uncharacteristically grew silent as Zoe turned, eyes widening at Styx's form.
Zoe,
Zoe began to laugh loudly, clasping her hands over her stomach and bending forward, nearly floored by her laughter as it became more and more unhinged.
Looks like I don't need Cagliostro's help after all.
The Gedanite shuffled nervously as Zoe's laughter continued. Zoe finally stood up straight, wiping tears of mirth from her eyes.
I would have never guessed in a million fucking years that the queen everyone is trying to replace me with is you, Styx. This is one hell of a joke. These mindless bastards weren't fighting each other? I may not have believed it.
Kos took a step forward. Blooded one. Misery's end manifested in Zoe's hand, and she brandished it in Kos's direction.
I keep losing my place because people keep bothering me. Shut the fuck up. The queen is not speaking to you right now, mortal.
Zoe started to laugh a bit again.
Holy shit. Holy shit. That fucking crown Salem had me go get. It's powerless. I knew that already, but now I understand why he wanted me to go get it. It fits your fucking head perfectly.
I can't help but laugh at this username. I'm sorry. Sucking Tom Cruise's toes. Thank you so much for the follow. Anyway, Phobos melted into the shadows, crawling back out next to Styx, wheezing softly.
Oh, and look at that. You've got Phobos as a pet. How fucking adorable. I gotta admit, this is one hell of a scheme you and Salem cooked up.
She started walking forward towards Styx.
What was the plan? Get rid of Nox and company so he doesn't screw you over? Then kill me too so you could have the throne yourself? You've clearly got the support of the people, stealing their souls and all. What's that godforsaken scythe that Rise make for you? But it's good use yet? Zoe, shut up.
Zoe manifested Hellbringer as well. That's enough, blooded one.
Plus, if you speak out of turn again, I will nail you to a fucking board and leave you to the crows.
She didn't even look at the Geta Knight as she spoke to him.
You know what? Know what? Talk, Styx. Try and convince me why you'd make a better ruler than I.
Zoe impaled both of her swords into the snow and crossed her arms, unable to stand still as she leaned forward and back constantly.
Come on, give me a reason. One reason.
Styx hesitated, gasping as a Geta Knight she hadn't claimed walked over to her side, axe brandished in one hand, patting Styx on the head with the other hand. Don't think we need that explanation. I can already see the reasoning right in front of me. Within a few seconds, Zoe picked up Misery's end, spun around, and tossed it like a spear, impaling the Geta Knight through the skull. Blood splattered across Phobos, who quickly moved to protect Styx. The Watcher hesitated, as roars of disbelief and insults flooded from all the Geta Knights.
Enough.
At Styx's call, they all fell silent again.
Salem was right. You really aren't fit to rule hell.
Styx grew braver as she spoke, beginning to address the camp as a whole.
I was chosen to rule in your place because Salem saw potential in me. I claim the souls of these men, but they have free will, and I can release them again at any time. I wanted them to disarm as much as possible, not kill each other.
Styx pressed a fist to her chest.
I don't even want to rule, but a scholar, a dead soul in my river told me long ago, that those who don't want to rule turn out to be the best rulers. I don't seek power, I just want the people to be happy.
Zoe started to grin, and began laughing again. The laughter sounded extremely insane and unhinged.
Make the people happy? You've got a lot to learn about ruling a fucking kingdom. It's not so simple as make the people happy. What are you, some fucking peace activist?
Zoe picked up Hellbringer.
No one is replacing me. Especially not you, Watcher. The Obsidian Throne will not be marred by some of your status.
Several things happened at once. Zoe seemed about to teleport, causing Phobos to move himself in front of Styx. But at the same moment, Kos's axe swung downward. Zoe reacted, turning and blocking it. She giggled sadistically.
Interesting, Kos. I think you're about 10 feet off target. Styx is over there.
Kos exhaled, cold air venting from his visor. I know exactly who I swung at. Zoe shoved Kos away, her brow furrowed.
You dare strike your god?
Kos raised his shield. Several Geta Knights began to form a wall between Styx and Zoe, and the entire camp seemed to have targeted the Queen of Hell. Zoe looked around slowly, scoffing.
You'd all defend this piece of shit, upstart? I am the Dark Saint of Blood, the Queen of Hell. I am your god.
You are no god of ours, Zoe. Not anymore. Zoe turned back to Kos, eyes widening that he had used her actual name.
I don't think my exhale came through the mic.
It did not, no. Zoe turned towards Styx, protected by Phobos and a wall of angry Northmen.
Do not think I have my throne so easily, beloved.
Zoe vanished in a spurt of demonic flame. Silence filled the camp. A deafening silence. Chapter 35. Icy Wrath. The silence was broken by a Gedonite sprinting into the camp and sliding to a stop in the snow. He took only a few moments to regain his breath. "Kos, the Iron Keep burns!" Styx looked at the messenger in shock.
What?
Kos seemed to slump slightly before standing up straight again. "If it isn't one thing, it's always something else, isn't it?" Kos started stomping over to the messenger. What set it afire? "Boats! Infernal boats, Kos! Catapults throwing lightning and everflame, and acid! The soldiers have rifles and backpacks spewing steam!" Kos began to laugh. "So Fetus has finally come knocking. Whatever they want with our frosty homeland, they will come to find Gedoni is not so accepting of visitors." Kos turned to the camp. "Ride for Iron Keep. It is time for a slaughter." Kos glanced at Styx for a moment. "We shall spill their blood and send their souls to the river of death." Styx jolted slightly. It seemed like they'd switched alliance to her after Zoe's less than acceptable display. All of the Gedonites, even the claimed ones, began to yell battle cries, gathering weapons and supplies, and beginning their march across the frost-coated land. Styx hesitated for a moment, then ran over to Kos.
Boss, I want to help. If you'll allow me to.
The 8-foot-tall warrior chuckled. "I wouldn't have it any other way. Soul Queen." Phobos severed the head of a Gedonite corpse and opened a rift to Iron Keep. Another rift opened next to him and Soul Blight fell out of it. Phobos picked it up and held it out to Styx, who grabbed it and nodded in thanks.
Boss, we'll go ahead to Iron Keep. I think it'd be wise if you alert the other clans.
The warrior scoffed. "There are messengers for that. We will meet you at Iron Keep, Soul Queen." Styx nodded.
The brain blinked, Rory. Good luck, come on, Phobos.
Yeah.
Good luck. Come on, Phobos.
She and the Saint of Fear stepped through the rift. Iron Keep was the largest settlement in the entirety of Gedoni, and one of the only bits of the old culture that remained before the land became frozen. A walled castle, partially eroded with its very barriers crumbling, sat at the rear of the savage city, a silent protector for the various wooden homes of the settlement itself. Iron Keep was also situated on the coastline and boasted the largest dockyard in all of the frozen north. The rift that Styx and Phobos took spat them out within the castle itself, in an antechamber with many grisly trophies hanging from the walls and ceiling and dried blood coating the cobblestone floor. The keep shuddered in its foundation as faint booms echoed inside. Styx was distracted for a few moments before realizing she could hear combat. Nearby them, Deimos, the Saint of Wrath, fought a short, white-haired girl with blood-red eyes. The Dark Saint was also facing Calico, easily holding them both off with a flaming halberd. Styx hesitated.
Phobos, head outside. See what you can do. I'll be fine here.
Phobos wheezed once before galloping off on all of his metal limbs and bursting through the entrance hall doors. Styx started to run towards the fight but quickly slid to a stop. Deimos managed to knock Calico over and quickly turned to block a blow from the white-haired girl, but she'd stepped back more suddenly, swinging forward, dragging her blade across the ground for a moment. a wall of ice launched itself at Deimos, whose flaming halberd melted it quickly.
Styx, help Rias. That's Deimos.
Oh. I only want the girl fallen. No one needs to die here. Styx hooked a scythe on the halberd and pulled Deimos towards her. In that pivotal moment, the girl, Rias, sprinted forward and drove her sword up through the Dark Saint's back. He yelled out, his ice spread from the wound, quickly encasing him. Rather quickly, Deimos became encased in the ice. Styx raised a scythe, folding the blade back and slamming Soul Blight's bardish form against the Dark Saint, shattering him into pieces. Calico quickly ran over to Rias and grabbed her arm.
We have to go.
The icy swordswoman shrugged her off and ran for the entrance.
Damn it.
Calico hesitated.
Morgan will catch up to her.
As the adrenaline wore down, Styx fell down to her knees, Soul Blight clattering to the floor next to her. Calico was next to her in a heartbeat.
What the hell are you doing here, Styx? And what's the matter?
Styx tried to stand, but started to keel over until Calico caught her. Tears flowed out of Styx's mismatched eyes.
Styx, what's wrong?
The Watcher gripped Calico's shirt, struggling for a moment to get her breathing under control.
Zoe knows. She's lost her goddamn mind. Dylan was right.
Calico's heart sank. She helped Styx to her feet.
Styx, go home. You're a wreck and Iron Keep is under siege.
Styx shook her head.
No. I came here to help the Garenites. Someone has to. Since Zoe has abandoned them.
Styx picked up Soul Blight and wiped the tears off her face.
Who was that girl?
Calico sighed.
The Sword Saint, Rias. Eris's sister.
Chapter 36. The Breaking Point. Nox and Oedipus sat across each other in their council room, utterly silent. The only sound came from Cagliostro, idly flipping pages of a book he held in his hands. Specifically, it was the Dark Codex. Where he'd found it, they did not know, and why he was here, they did not know either. Occasionally, the masked and robed wisdom demon would chuckle. After what felt like an eternity, the doors of the chamber flew open before Mortis, whomst was guarding the door, was shoved aside and Ignis stepped inside. Despite the constant blaze covering his body, the ice block he held did not melt. He idly lobbed it onto the table, where it slid in front of the other two Dark Saints. Encased within was the robed head of Deimos, Saint of Wrath.
Ignis.
Our numbers dwindle by the day, it seems. Nox looked over at the Saint of Fire.
What's happened?
Ignis shrugged, roughly sitting down in a seat and placing one singed boot on the table. I think Rias killed him. So much for this plan to bring her here. She had the help of Calico and the Watcher. And what of the Queen of Souls? All eyes turned to Cagliostro. It almost looked like his mask was smirking smugly. What do you mean? What about her? Oedipus leaned forward. What's she doing in Garany? Ignis shrugged. The spy masters must be running slow today. Ignis scratched his arm idly. Fedus is laying siege to Iron Keep. Funny timing considering the Hell Queen had one hell of a meltdown and abandoned the Garanites. Oedipus nodded slowly.
A Miltstone, huh?
Aye. Seems she and the Watcher had a falling out of sorts. Oedipus stood up excitedly.
Maybe we could use this to our advantage.
Cagliostro chuckled and pointed at the pale, horned demon. This one, Nox. She's a keeper for sure. He sat up, closing his book, but keeping a hand within to hold his page. Tell me, illustrious schemer, what is on your mind? Oedipus hesitated, looking away with a small smile.
Well, I think all of us here have come to realize by now that the Watcher is the Queen of Souls we've been hearing about. And obviously Salem is helping her. His betrayal can be discussed later. I'm sure that he's as well aware as we are that Celia needs to be dealt with.
Cagliostro nodded. Indeed. However, I do wonder how we shall go about that. Were either of you aware that the Hell Queen attacked Heaven? Oedipus's eyes widened, but Ignis and Nox did not have any noticeable reaction. I surmised she'd become bored and decided to show the angels she had returned. Nox sighed.
If we had Argos.
Cagliostro held up a hand for a moment so Nox would stop talking. Actually, Lord of Shadow, Argos has already fought her. It seems she's grown stronger. Honestly, Nox, there's only 2 of you left. While it seems like a strange decision, I think we should dispose of Salem's upstart before the Watcher becomes too powerful for us to handle. After that, well... Cagliostro chuckled as he gently stroked the cover of his codex. I have a few ideas on how to deal with the Hell Queen. Oedipus nodded slowly.
You have secrets within that book to defeat strong demons, don't you, listener?
The Wisdom Demon chuckled. Please, my dark beauty. Call me Cagliostro. Oedipus frowned slightly as the listener stood. Anyway, once the Watcher is dealt with, we need only harness her soul to drain the River of Souls temporarily and retrieve the essence of Apocalypse. With that, the Hell Queen will be no match. Oi! What do you mean by 2 dark saints? Am I not here? Cagliostro looked at him. Ignis recoiled slightly as the listener's wooden mask seemed to begin frowning with unending hatred. Tell me, Ignis, have you ever touched the River of Death? Ignis's eyes widened. Oedipus slowly turned to look at the flaming demon in shock.
You're a spy?
Ignis suddenly shoved his seat away from the table and bolted out the doors. Nox manifested his sword, and Oedipus summoned a purple orb into her hand. But Cagliostro raised a hand. Hold, friends. He flipped through the pages of his codex. My cousin tried to kill me with this book once. Emphasis on tried, of course. Now I will show you two the true power of the Dark Codex. He cleared his throat. Uriki til au riksuga. He promptly closed the book and chuckled. From dust thou came, to dust thou shalt return. While his expression was unknown beneath his smiling mask, Nox and Oedipus could sense that he was smiling for real. You may want to find a broom, Lord Nox. There's a pile of scorched ash awaiting outside. Oedipus slowly sat back down in her seat, visibly shaking slightly. Nox remained standing, death coil still gripped tightly in his bony knuckles. Something the matter, Lord Nox? The Lord of Shadow shook his head and slowly sat back down. Good. Then I think it's time we discuss what to do about the dwindling numbers of aides we have. Cagliostro chuckled as he indicated the empty room. I have a few ideas in mind. While Calico tried her hardest, she had inevitably lost Styx into the crowds of Gedonites fighting for their lives around Iron Keep. The Fallen had seen people in Styx's mental state before. She was not fit to fight, and if anything, seemed to be an unstoppable dive towards a mental collapse. Calico took a deep breath and took flight with her wings to stay above the hordes of Northmen, frantically searching for the gray-haired demon.
Six, where are you?
Styx had almost made it to the front lines, despite being shoved and jostled by Geronites, before a sudden nausea struck her and she stumbled into an empty hovel. She fell to her hands and knees as soul-blight clattered to the muddy floor next to her. She had become used to losing connections to souls extremely quickly. It was the mildest of sensations, utterly unnoticeable, unless she was specifically expecting it, probably because even in death, those souls joined the rest in her river. But this was different. She began choking and felt a burning feeling across her entire body for a few moments before the fit ended. Ignis was gone, his soul erased entirely. Tears came to her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away, shoving back to sit against the wall, holding her head.
Why did it have to be me, Salem? There's no way I was your best choice.
An intense headache struck her for a few seconds, and she gritted her teeth until the pain passed. The Watcher looked up as Phobos melted out of the shadows and clanked over to her. He lowered his head to her eye level, staring into the green and purple. There was a question in that gaze.
I'm fine, Phobos. I just needed a moment to myself.
The Saint of Fear suddenly extended a metal claw and clamped the sharp fingers around her head, but in a gentle and painless way. Her eyes rolled back into her head as Phobos took her into his dream realm. Because of what she knew about Phobos, she had certainly been expecting a nightmare. But what she saw was herself, sitting upon the obsidian throne, happy. She was laughing at something just out of her vision, but she couldn't turn to look at who it was. The dream shifted, showing Styx standing on a plateau in the mortal realm, overseeing the construction of a new city, a gigantic metropolis that somehow she knew would serve a dual purpose as both a new pact of peace and a place where angel, human, and demon could once again dwell together in harmony. She could feel her dream self holding someone's hand, and could sense others standing behind her. She heard a voice, and was able to turn her head to the right to see Phobos. He stood up to his full height and spoke, but the voice came from the demonic orb within the cage at his core, instead of his metal head.
I am the Saint of Fear. That does not mean nightmares are all I can show. I am a demon of the dream aspect. But Phobos, you're not wheezing and,
A wheezy laugh emanated from the metal head as the core continued to speak.
We are inside of your mind. Within your dreams, my queen. Dreams are my domain, where I may speak normally.
Styx hesitated for a moment.
Are you sure it's a dream? It feels more like a premonition or something.
She turned her gaze back, watching the sunset, and the person to her left hold her hand tighter. But she could not turn her head that way. She gasped, feeling a hand on her shoulder, looking back at Phobos. The puppet had collapsed to the ground, and a shadowy silhouette of a man with pure white, pupilless eyes was standing next to her.
It may seem that way, but everyone dreams differently. You dream vividly, my queen. That is something you seek to attain. You ask why Salem chose you. This is part of why. Just like Salem, you want to see all of the wars and selfish conflicts between the realms end.
The shadow silhouette turned its head towards the massive city.
I failed the Hell Queen. She grew out of control and we were forced to overthrow her. I will not make the same mistake again. I want to see you succeed, Styx.
Styx's eyes widened slightly. She
Thanks.
clenched her fists and nodded.
Thank you for putting your faith in me, Phobos. I think I'm okay now.
The silhouette seemed to get sucked back into the metal puppet's cage before it anchored its metal feet and swung back to a slouched standing position, lowering its head. Styx smiled softly as she patted its head.
For a saint of fear, you sure like head pats.
Vision became reality again, and Styx stood up unsteadily, but filled with more resolve. She picked up Soul Blight and unfurled the blade.
Come on, let's save Iron Keep, then find Calico. Then help Calico find Rias.
And that brings us to the 37th chapter, which we will pick up next week. Just stretch here for just a moment. The action's picking up. I really like this. This is good. It's a slow burn. I like it.
I'm glad you do.
Yes. No, this is really good. Chat, I hope you'll join me in encouraging Zoe. Please publish this soon. This is so good. And really excited to see your next work get completed. Both are just incredible. So I'm having fun. This has highlighted my week to be able to do this this sort of reading ASMR, especially of an original work like this. This is incredible. Suga, welcome in, welcome in. Love this story. Oh, I'm glad you like it, Car Kid. Remember, everybody, you can go back and watch the VODs here on Twitch, or you can subscribe to my YouTube page or to Zoe's YouTube page. We both post up VODs, and yeah, you can go back and watch the previous versions and get caught up in case you missed any portions. What's up? Not too much, not too much. We just wrapped up tonight a more reading ASMR. I need to head to bed before I hit my head on the radiator. Oh dear.
Oh god.
Yes, please. Please, by all means, go to bed. I'm probably going to be heading off to bed soon here too. Before we do that though, again, make sure that you follow me, follow Zoe, and keep in touch with us through our Twitter pages, through our respective Discord servers, everything. Yeah, that's just, this is just having a wonderful time here, and looking forward to picking it up next week, same time. But in the meantime, Zoe, are you gonna keep streaming for a little while longer?
No, I'm gonna raid. Not feeling 100% still.
Oh, okay, all right. We're going to raid as well. Did you have anybody in particular you were going to raid to?
Let's take a looky here.
I see that Razor and Shiroi are both streaming tonight.
Let's rate Shiroi, because she's only got 4. Razor has 8.
Yeah. Shiroi playing Yakuza 5 Remastered. Great game. And your video just disappeared on me.
That's because I closed that tab to open Twitch.
Oh. Oops. Switch back over to your PNG here. There we are. Good night, Car Kid. Thank you so much for stopping by, and again, thank you so much for the follow. Right, so let's go ahead and do that. We will set up a raid for Inatsu Shiroi, my senpai. Okay, there we have that. Let me get the copy pasta ready for everybody. And I will see all of you Friday night for some live voice acting with my colleague, Nobuyuki Volpe. Until then, I'm Lord Rexworth, wishing you all the best, and God bless.
I'll be seeing everyone tomorrow because it's when a new For Honor here comes out, the Ringing Guard.
Fantastic. Look forward to it, everybody. Good night.
Bye!
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign.